Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 39 of the Red Sea podcast. An episode where we're all collectively gonna take a breather after the basketball game we just saw. But today isn't about the basketball, that's always gonna happen. Hopefully, tomorrow. Today is about the Europa League class that we all witnessed last night and more or less what it means going forward. Of course, not an ideal result as Olympiacos drew Rangers at home 1-1 with goals from Ayub El Kabi, of course, and Deseres, respectively. Not what we wanted, and arguably not what we needed either. With a draw seeing us, I think, 11th, uh, and I'd say, yes, we are 11th, same points as the Rangers, as was the case before, with our next opponent, Steaua Bucharest, 2 points ahead of us in the 8th position. We are standing 2 points behind 7th placed Tottenham as well, with Lyon, Bodo Glimt, Midtjylland on the same points as us. As I said before, the result is nowhere near destructive, and on a night that, as a majority was considered a relatively bad performance wise, picking up a point against a side that's right alongside you isn't horrific. As I said on the preview, we saw great similarities between us and Rangers, similarities that, for whoever did do their homework, were on show loudly and proudly all throughout this season. And if we want to be totally honest with ourselves, Rangers did their homework. They saw what works against us, especially in the Greek Super League, and they applied it, especially after the Serge goal. They played anti-football. I think anti-football is the best way to describe what Rangers did. Uh, so we definitely need to take into account that the team in Europe figured us out, and we definitely need to take into account some performances. Exactly. There were weaknesses on show all throughout the season, especially in some European results, but we didn't capitalize on them in the absolute slightest. We did nothing to focus on their weaknesses. Uh, we did nothing really to necessarily trouble them. We were bad on that final chance. We were bad on that final decision. While in build up, we weren't necessarily bad on that final decision, on that shot, on that pass. We were bad. We were poor. We were poorer than we've been all throughout our UEL campaign this far, at least in my opinion. Uh, I doubt it's an info thing. Was Mendy given the right info? I doubt it's an info thing. I honestly put it more into a performance thing, more or less. Can't really put it into much more. Speaking of performances, let's go over the lineup and put out our first few comments. Of course, I did give you all a predicted lineup on the preview, which was off. With Zolakis, the more and more improving Zolakis uh, making two absolutely incredible saves, even though I'm pretty sure the first save that Zolakis was forced to make wouldn't have counted if it went in, but it was a save to admire nonetheless, honestly. Uh, and yet, I would very sadly be very pleasantly surprised if Zolakis was here next season and he didn't get a big move away. But transfers and transfer possibilities are a whole different talk that we really needn't get into up until January, or at least up until a bit before January. Uh, Apostolopoulos played left back, which we all thought was a big risk by Mendy. But he honestly turned out to be one of the best performing players in that first half that he got. Of course, Czerny troubled him. We need to also keep in our heads that Apostolopoulos is inexperienced European-wise, but especially considering how some others performed out there, uh, he was one of our most stable players, if not to say best performing. Apostolopoulos got subbed off at halftime because we needed to sub him off at halftime. It was more of a certainty sub because again, as much as I loved how he played, it's a sub I understand. We all thought the game needed Velde. Apostolopoulos did all he could, but was bound to tire out completely uh, after some point with the high level of intensity that the game had. And also, it may still be the very simple reason of we may need him for Sunday. It's no certainty that Francisco Ortega will make the game. So we may just need Apostolopoulos for the game against Pau, and the more rest he got, honestly, the better, given of how big of importance the game on Sunday is as well. But I fully agree with this that he did put a great shift and he deserved more praise, in my opinion. He really deserved more praise than he got. Uh, Moving on, then of course it was the usual duo of David Carmo and Panayotis Retsos. And I do want to focus on Retsos a bit and not as much on Carmo. I get, well, no, I don't really get. I don't understand how people blame him for the goal. The goal, for me, the blame for the goal we considered was first, sadly, to Christos Mouzakitis with that completely misplaced pass down the left. Then it goes to David Carmo, and then it goes to Rechos. Rechos tried to put his body on the line to stop that, but it was one of the hardest tackle attempts to pull off successfully that there is in football, really, because not only is there the risk of a penalty if you mistime it and do it later, but there is also the risk of a red card if you mistime it completely and clutter the player. While I do agree with it that he does have some blame, he doesn't have nearly as much of blame for the goal as people put onto him. Because Rechos, same as some other players, is Olympiacos' scapegoat. Whenever something goes wrong, Rechos just gets eaten up. We give so much time to players like Velde, to players like Danny Garcia, to players like William, for us to for them to show us something, to show us that they're worth to be here. which most aren't, but we'll get into that. And yet, with players like Rachels, they make one mistake where they're not even fully to be blamed for, and we just eat them up. It's so illogical to me. And again, I am not excluding myself from categories like this. I've done this in the past many times. But this mindset, the more I get away from it, realizing how dumb it is, the more it just blows my mind how much double standards there are in this thing. Then, of course, moving on to Costinha down at right back and left back in the second half. Costinha, once again, nothing really to talk about Costinha wise because he once again just put on a great shift. Regius was very, very vital yesterday. Regius saved us multiple times yesterday. And but as usual with players like Regius, people are just gonna focus on the mistake and not the all around good performance. Now, going from a rant about the fans to something positive about the fans. And of course, moving on to Musakitis. Musakitis, who yesterday, of course, didn't have that amazing of a game, had the major part in the costly mistake that ultimately uh, led to the Serge goal. But thank codes above, I've not seen anyone tearing to the kid. Most people, at least people that my algorithm and people I follow that follow me and in general haven't torn into the kid. Of course, there is blame to be put where you're playing in basically the highest level you can. There isn't any feeling bad for any player. The blame is there, but it's been acceptable, logical, controlled criticism as it should be at this point, as it really should be. Musa has been amazing, and honestly, mistakes like this happen. Uh, he has to move with his head held high, and we need to help him with that. As we thankfully are, at least as a majority. Another person who for me had a mediocre game yesterday, but nothing really costly, is Santi Ese. Santi Ese, of course, has been a machine for this team, an absolute, absolute machine. But again, yesterday, really mediocre for me, but nothing really major on either the positive or the negative side to focus on. Another player that really didn't show his true self yesterday for me is Zelson Martins. Of course, I don't come to expect of Zelson to have final uh, that final touch to be goal hungry because that's not who Zelson is. Zelson is more traditional winger. Zelson will get you that assist that will leave you with your mouth absolutely open and wide. Zelson will dribble past 4 or 5 players, and of course, Zelson will get the goal eventually, but he's not meant to be the one that we rely on to get that goal, if that makes sense. And for some reason, this I don't know why Zelson just sleeps. And 90% of his shots, Zelson just ends up on the floor. And I don't know why this happens. I really, really don't. It's just a weird detail that I've noticed. But yes, we shouldn't rely on Selson to get the goal, but we should expect something more from the amazing amazing player that we know a healthy Gelson Martins is. Uh, yes, this Rangers, of course, as I said earlier, studied us perfectly, as perfectly as it gets. And they did also study Gelson Martins perfectly, marking him ideally, sadly. So he couldn't really get into his game, which I mentioned before. Um, then following Chiquinho. Uh, Chiquinho has been very criticized this season, and Chiquinho's received criticism is long talk because Chiquinho, of course, has been mediocre as a collective this season, given what he did last season with us. But Chiquinho, of course, has been playing completely out of position. There is the talk that we can get into of getting him back and using perhaps Musa as a super sub, but who plays as the 10? And now, as most roads of talks of this season lead, we go back to the bad planning of the summer. Who plays as a 10? Our only pure attacking midfield transfer tore his ACL 20 minutes into his debut. So Chiquinho is kind of stuck there. He does what he can. Of course, he provided, if I'm not completely mistaken, despite everyone giving Musa credit, including uh, El Cabe and Chiquinho, yes, Chiquinho did provide the actual assist from that header. Uh, but there is not much else you can say uh, on Chiquinho when there isn't really anyone else to fully cover the 10. Um, this comment is interesting. Hear me out. Gelson is strong, direct, and fast. Let him run through the middle at the 10. I want to say it once. I pose a question to that suggestion. Let's say we do give Gelson the 10 position. It would perhaps lead to something similar that I will refer to Liverpool, that Luis Diaz has gotten as a benefit from playing more centrally. But who plays down the left? Who plays down the left? Especially in leagues, okay, maybe even Papacanelos can start playing down the left. But in Europe, who plays down the left if Zelson gets that central position? Also, excuse me for a second. I didn't want to blow your eardrums with a very loud sneeze. I am a bit sick, so you'll forgive me if that's coming through the mic. So yeah, I honestly can't see Zelson playing down the 10 because I don't know who will replace him down the left. I don't think we have anyone on form enough to replace him down the left, in Europe at least. But we can maybe, exactly, we can maybe try it in the league. The we have nothing to lose is a whole uh, different, different uh, talk. Because at this point of the season, we have a lot to lose. And I can comment on this because uh, I do want to give credit where it's due. I don't think many people predicted, as uh, you told me as well, George, and as the comment shows, I said as well, I don't think anyone, even the Rangers fans, really predicted that they would go away with a point yesterday. Uh, and of course, there is different talks of the ref, which I can openly say that the ref was horrific. But for those of you who know me and who have been watching me for the damn near a year that the show has been going on now, it's crazy that this show is a year old in March, right after my 21st birthday. But that's a whole different story. Uh, I don't like blaming the refs for losses, and I do not think that the ref is the main reason that we didn't go out with a win yesterday. So I'm not gonna focus on that. What else before I go on to Rodney? Yes, these Rangers were on a very bad run. There, as I mentioned, not only in the preview but shows leading up to everything that has happened. Uh, Rangers were even calling for not only the coach's head, but the owner's head as well. So this whole turnaround and the just complete different showing in the Karaiskakis deserves some praise at least. Uh, Now, this moving on to Rodinei. Can we stop putting this man on the right wing? Please, for the love of gods above, can we stop putting this man on the right wing? Our perfect right side for me is Rodinei at right back and Gelson Martins in front of him. For me, that's our perfect right side this year. I love Costinha getting starting minutes. I love Costinha getting starting minutes. But I'd honestly throw Costinha at left back. Uh, Especially a Roddy that's not 100% like he wasn't yesterday. We know he wasn't 100%. Reports came out and said that he did suffer a minor injury but still chose to play and was deemed fit enough to play. Uh, I don't like him at right wing. It's not a horrible choice. It's not a horrible choice, but at least in my eyes, he's much more preferable at right back. He can still handle the whole side as an overlapping right back. We've seen that many times. So I don't get why he's still up at the wing. I mean, I do get it because we don't have enough wingers. We don't have enough competent wingers at least. But I really want to say that Rodney Martins, right side, once again. And honestly, at this rate, he will probably score a goal the moment he goes back at right back. Because that's who Rodney is, more or less. Uh, And yes, the show will indeed have a 1 year special. I am planning on having a 1 year special when the time comes. It is on, I'm pretty sure the show was established on the club's birthday. So, along with a 1 year special for the show, it's gonna be an 100-year special for the club. Uh, I'm planning a lot of stuff already for the 10th of March. And I do hope and pray that I can pull off a show on the day. I will do all I can to pull off a show. on the day. Big plans, big plans. Uh, I'm gonna show this and I'm gonna say no comment. Actually, no. My comment will be this. Nothing else. My comment will be this. This. This right here. Red balloons is an amazing idea, actually. Red balloons is an idea I will note down. But yes, before I steer too far off topic, uh, finishing off, of course, the absolutely Moroccan killer, as weird as it sounds for me to call someone else other than Youssef El Arabi a Moroccan killer, the man who is now our European top scorer, tied with El Arabi on goals, but in way, way less games, in absolute record time. And the man that will go first alone, probably even after the Steaua Bucharest game, and that's Ayub El Kabi. Ayub El Kabi scoring one of the most beautiful goals I've seen. Arguably, I'd say, uh, even arguably even better than the scissor kick against Maccabi. No words, absolutely no words for this one. Um, I honestly have nothing to say about how impressive, how unbelievably admirable what he's done as a free transfer has been. People doubted him when he came in. I doubted him when he came in. But from the moment he came in to now, what he's done is absolutely wild. I'm pretty sure the 16 goals in 14 games that, as insane as it sounds, is true, but I'm pretty sure the record is 20 in 23, if I'm not that mistaken, which also nearly a goal per game in Europe is something that I just said so calmly, but a goal per game in Europe is nuts. And at this rate, if we do all goes well, qualify even for the round of 16 of the Europa League, he may very well reach a goal per game in Europe with us. And I feel like his record by the time, which hopefully will be a long time from now, he leaves Olympiacos. I feel like his record in Europe as our all-time European top scorer will be unbreakable for quite some time. But we said the same for El Arabi, so you never know. Czerny is on loan at Rangers from Wolfsburg. Would love for him to come on loan next season. Ooh, oh, I thought they had bought him, honestly. Czerny is a player that was dancing down our left side. Uh, Czerny is a player that we would for sure need. So I would absolutely love even the possibility of us getting him. But a player of his standards would probably get a permanent offer from the top five league. So I don't think that's something we should be thinking about. Uh, but we'll see, honestly. I'd love it. I'd absolutely love him down our right side. Now, moving on to the extremely underwhelming subs, starting off with uh, a man that I tried to defend, a man that I did my best to say give him time, and then he went on to score against Califem and Serikos. Yes, but he came in today and got a whole 45 against a European side that's not amazing. Uh, and that's Velde, of course. I will tear a new one into Oliveira in a bit. But of course, that is Christopher Velde. Uh, I don't see a reason why he plays over Papacanelos again. I don't see a reason why he should take another minute off of Adonis Papacanelos. Please tell me what his name. Yes, okay. he he's Adonis. Uh, I drop him down the ladder. I would start playing Papacanelos over him now. Uh, he can't offer more at this rate. I was hopeful. I really was. And I will take the responsibility of saying that I backed him for this game. I even backed him to start for this game. But I don't necessarily see a scenario where he offers more than he is now. We can't have a nanny over his shoulder saying, you can do this, you will do this, until he scores um, a European goal or a goal in a big game. He may. Velde has a, a deadly shot, can take that away. But aside the deadly shot, Velde isn't the winger we need right now. And I'd honestly give Papacanelos the minutes he needs over him. That's it. I am seeing an Oliveira comment I fully agree with, so I will get into him. Uh, Oliveira saying that Oliveira is a handicap to this team is an understatement at this rate. A man that earns so much money and a man that Greek quote unquote journalists uh, passed off as a bum transfer. Uh, a man that people dared, dared to say that was a Fortunis replacement. A man that, if you all can recall back to the summer when he came in, Gala fans were throwing a party about him leaving their club. Uh, I did talk to a lot of Gala fans when he came in, and they were the happiest bunch that he was leaving the club. They were making full fun of us, and as it seems, they were right. He's blackmailing mentally, but technically to get the minutes that he's getting because he earns so much, so he must play, right? I can't anymore with these types of players. The Oliveiras of the football world. Player that comes here, earns a fuck ton of money, and just walks on the field. He needs to go in January. I've been saying this, but Oliveira needs to be one of the two, three, four uh, players that need to fuck off in January. Like this is enough. If the appearances in the league were the final straw, surely this is the final straw. I've said this uh, to you, George. I've said this to Gav. Said this to my girlfriend. I've said this to anyone and everyone. When he came on, I threw a fit like a 5-year-old child. I couldn't believe I was seeing him put on the kit for yesterday's game. He shouldn't even be in the squad again. Honestly, put Bakulas in. Put Bakulas in and throw him out of the match list. Put Bakulas in and throw him out of the match list. No way he's good at trading, right? Uh, it is what I said. It is the wages that play the major part in him getting the playtime, like it always is with players like Oliveira. And exactly this. I wouldn't let Oliveira clean Fortuna's boots either, but I'll probably get attacked by some of our fan base for even mentioning Costas Fortuni. So I'd honestly give him the Huang treatment. I'd throw him out the team until we can get a transfer. I don't see why not. I don't see why he deserves to be in the squad list for the games for Olympiacos anymore. I wouldn't go that harsh on someone like Velde, but for Oliveira, I don't see a scenario in which he deserves to be part of the squad list. I really don't. And again, same for Velde. You can name perfect player on the youth team to come in and replace him, which is a nice coincidence, isn't it? Moving on to a player that has divided opinions in the fan base, honestly. That's Lorenzo Pirola. Lorenzo Pirola, for me, he deserves to be in this team. Lorenzo Pirola is a very good second string uh, center back for me. He's a deserving backup of David Carmo, and with the criticism he's getting lately for the past few games, of course, I mean, before his injury and now that he's back, we need to understand that the man is being forced to play left back, a position that I'm pretty sure he hasn't played his whole career, and a position that exactly what I got into. Pirola is a young center back and he gets criticized because we didn't plan correctly. It's insane how some people just jump to criticism like there's no tomorrow without using 1% of the brains they have or don't have maybe in their heads. Pirola deserves to be in this team. For me, again, these are my opinions. Feel free to attack me if you want to, but these are my opinions. I'm sure some of you will find a way to just say I'm wrong and stupid, but that's part of the fan base at this point. Uh, Pirola is a very, very good backup for David Carmo, and I can't understand a single scenario of him getting criticized and being called useless because, yes, I saw that as well, uh, for being played as an emergency left back. And I pray to the heavens that he doesn't start as left back against PAOK and that we find a different way around it and start either Costinha or Apostolopoulos because he'll just be written off by so many quote unquote fans for no reason at all. I still believe in Pirola as a backup. And of course, then it was Kostulas who was needed way earlier in the game for me. His energy was needed much, much earlier for me. Um, Still had a good game. Didn't really have time to do much in 5, 6 minutes that he had in total. Got a yellow. Uh, Kostulas needs to play again. Kostulas is a player that needs to play in his position and he needs more minutes. I know that it was a risk to get him on earlier yesterday, but I don't see why we couldn't, especially when you have a struggling Chiquinho and when you need the pace and the energy that Costulas may bring and the creativity that Costulas brings, honestly, as well. Of course, the did not plays were Doi, Biancon, Papacanelos, Stamanic, Masuras, Garcia, and the wannabe center forward, Roman Yaremchuk. Uh, Anyone that can tell me what's wrong with William again, you win something. I don't know. I don't know how this player is out injured again. And I'm honestly starting to grow very, very tired of 90% of the players that came in the summer. I'm starting to grow so tired. Speaking of everything, stats wise, we dominated possession. As I said, there was great studying from the Rangers side uh, that just gave us the ball and let us ruin our own chances. Expected goals were 0.71 for us and 1.16 for the Scottish side. They had three big chances. Total shots, we had 14, they had 11. Cholakis, of course, was on show, as I mentioned earlier, with five saves to Butland's one. And honestly, that's about it for yesterday. That's all I wanted to mention, at least. Any questions are, as always, more than welcome. I did give Rangers the props they deserve. And I do want to finish off by saying something relatively, maybe even on the brinks of delusional. We need three wins. Not necessarily a must, but in my opinion, to be confident in securing top 8, we need, of course, to go to Romania and win, as delusional as that is. We need a, a result against Twente. I don't know if that's a draw or a win. Uh, the Dragao game, the Porto game, is one that, in my opinion, we may even lose, but that's more than okay, in my opinion. I don't think anyone will go to the Dragao and just expect a victory. Uh, Despite a Porto that is in very, very bad form. They currently stand 22nd with 4 points. Uh, so all can happen. And in my opinion, we need to beat Karabakh. So I need phrasing that a bit better. We need the win against Steaua and Karabakh, a win or a draw against Twente, so we can have the breathing space, per se, uh, to afford points dropped against Porto. And I think that will get us into the top 8 quite comfortably, honestly. Uh, question: who was worse, Oliveira or Lucas? Oh, I will tell him a new one tomorrow. And I can't wait to go into this game. Uh, Honestly, great basketball game, great derby. That's all I'll say today. Two of Europe's best teams played today. Arguably, to phrase that a bit better, the two best teams in European basketball played today. But I have so much stuff to say. But yes, still the no, the right answer for me is still Sergio Oliveira. uh, I'm not gonna talk about revenge because I don't want to end up like Mohamed Salah and Real Madrid. But we need the result against Karabakh. I don't see how we don't get the result against Karabakh. As egotistical as that may end up sounding, Karabakh is a side that we need to be beating, and Karabakh is a side that we need to be beating comfortably this year. Uh, Karabakh is a side that stands 29th with 3 points currently, with 27th actually, with three draws and a loss. But I still think the 20 game will be a bit more tricky. But Karabakh is a side that we need to demolish, not just beat. But we'll see what will happen when we get there because that is, of course, the last game. For now, we need to focus on the very tricky Steaua game, especially with aim to jump them in the standings and maybe break into the top 8. That's about it, I think. Uh, Next show is gonna be tomorrow, as I said, focusing on the amazing derby we did see just a few hours ago. And then I will hopefully be joined by Gav to talk about the PAOK game and what's happening in the Great Super League. But for now, do go check all the socials in the description if you like what you see and want to interact with me more. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you all tomorrow.